On the 7th of September 1191, the fields near Arsuf witnessed one of the most iconic battles of the Third Crusade. This confrontation marked a significant triumph for the Crusader coalition, led by King Richard I of England, against the larger forces of the Ayyubid Sultanate, commanded by the formidable Saladin. The battle came in the wake of the Crusaders' capture of Acre earlier that year, as Richard sought to secure the coastal city of Jaffa as a strategic waypoint on the road to Jerusalem. Following the fall of Acre in July 1191, Richard recognized the critical importance of Jaffa as a staging ground for an eventual campaign on Jerusalem. In August, he began a calculated march southward along the coastline. The strategy capitalized on the capture of a significant portion of the Egyptian fleet at Acre, ensuring safe passage for his army, with the sea protecting one flank. Despite the oppressive heat and the ever-present threat of ambush, Richard prioritized discipline and access to water to avoid the disastrous mistakes that had plagued Crusader forces during the Battle of Hattin 4 years earlier. The army marched in a compact formation, with crossbowmen and infantry shielding the knights and baggage train from Saladin's incessant raids. 12 regiments of cavalry, each with 100 knights, formed the backbone of the army. Meanwhile, Richard's naval fleet accompanied the march, delivering supplies and serving as a refuge for the wounded. As the Crusaders approached the forested terrain near Arsuf, Saladin recognized the need to commit his full force to halt their advance. With an army of approximately 2,500 men, composed mainly of light cavalry, horse archers, and heavy Mamluk troops, he planned a decisive engagement. The dense wood of Arsuf provided the perfect cover for his forces, allowing them to stage hit-and-run attacks and whittle down the Crusaders' strength. By contrast, Richard's force of 1,000 infantry and 1,200 knights was vastly outnumbered. However, the discipline of his troops and the strategic placement of his military orders, such as the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaller, helped the Crusaders withstand the relentless harassment of Saladin's archers and skirmishers. On the morning of September 7th, as Richard's army began its march from camp, scouts reported Saladin's forces concealed in the surrounding woods. Richard prepared for an assault, positioning the Templars under Robert de Sable at the vanguard and the Hospitallers under Garnier de Nablus at the rear. Between these formidable wings, groups of Angevins, Bretons, and Poitevins marched in disciplined ranks. The Ayyubid forces initiated the battle with waves of Bedouin and Nubian infantry hurling arrows and javelins, followed by mounted archers who struck and retreated. This tactic aimed to disrupt the Crusaders' formation, forcing them into disarray. The Hospitallers, bearing the brunt of the assault, faced mounting pressure. It seemed linelet Cecil would be nothing but death. Despite repeated attacks, Richard ordered his men to hold formation, waiting for the ideal moment to counterattack. The knights grew increasingly frustrated, particularly as heat, thirst, and the loss of horses compounded their difficulties. "What's the point?" Richard fought back. "We're the only ones that made it to the end." Under the relentless strain, Garnier de Nablus pleaded with Richard for permission to counterattack. Initially denied, the Hospitallers eventually launched a charge, possibly under delegated authority or out of sheer necessity. Their battle cry, "St. George," rallied their ranks, and soon the French Niners joined the fray. The charge risked unraveling Richard's strategy, but the king acted decisively. He ordered a full-scale counterattack, signaling his forces with 6 trumpet blasts. The Crusader infantry opened gaps in their lines, allowing knights to charge through and strike at the heart of Saladin's forces. The sudden shift from a defensive stance to an aggressive assault caught Saladin's troops off guard. His right wing, already engaged with the Crusader rearguard, was unable to retreat or regroup effectively. Many of his cavalry, having dismounted for archery, were particularly vulnerable. By favoring among the Crusaders, Isaac became Sir Cassor's master and later king of Syria. The Hospitallers' bold initiative and the subsequent support from the main Crusader force turned the tide. Saladin's center and left wings collapsed under the onslaught, as described by the Muslim chronicler Baha al-Din. Saladin himself was left with only a small remnant of his guard. Fearing the possibility of a counterattack, Richard regrouped his forces before launching a final charge that dispersed Saladin's army into the surrounding hills and forests. By nightfall, the Crusaders had returned to their camp at Arsuf, where they collected spoils from the battlefield. Saladin's losses were heavy, with 32 emirs and 7,000 soldiers killed. In contrast, Richard's casualties numbered fewer than 700. This decisive victory significantly weakened Saladin's forces and bolstered Crusader morale, and dramatically increased Grusev's position. Together they threatened to radically change the geographic shape of Africa. While the Battle of Arsuf did not lead to the immediate capture of Jerusalem, it showcased Richard the Lionheart's tactical brilliance and established his reputation as a formidable military leader. The victory set the stage for further negotiations, culminating in the Treaty of Jaffa, which allowed Christian pilgrims access to Jerusalem.